When in Rome, go to the Colosseum. The ancient gladiator arena is a must-see attraction in the Eternal City, and starting next month, tourists will be allowed to take in a colossal view from sections that have been closed off for decades. The Colosseum is the most famous ruin on Earth, but we have been looking at it all wrong. For centuries, millions of tourists have walked over a secret that the Roman Empire tried desperately to bury. Deep beneath the arena floor past the cages and the trap doors, archaeologists just found a sealed chamber that does not show up on any blueprint. If you look at this and you think they made this more than 4,000 years ago, they actually built this. This is incredible. Inside, the walls are covered in symbols that predate the empire itself. But here is the catch. These aren't just random drawings. They tell a story that changes everything we know about why Rome was built in the first place, the void that shouldn't exist. A team of researchers was using new ground-penetrating radar to check the stability of the foundations. They were looking for cracks or water damage. Basically, they were doing a safety check. But then the monitors spiked, about 30 feet below the lowest known level of the hypogee. That is the underground maze where they kept the tigers and the fighters. The radar hit a void. Now, a void usually means a collapsed tunnel or maybe a drain. But this was different. The edges were straight. The angles were perfect right angles. Nature does not make perfect squares deep underground. Someone built this, and the crazy part is there is no door. It's not that simple, though. If there is no door, how did anyone get in? And more importantly, how did they get out? The location of this chamber is right beneath the central axis of the arena. This is the spot where the emperor would have had the best view. It is the heart of the building. Historians have always told us that Emperor Vespasian built the Colosseum to give the land back to the people after the crazy Emperor Nero took it all for himself. Nero had built a massive golden palace and a giant artificial lake right where the Colosseum stands today. The story goes that Vespasian drained the lake and built the arena on top to say, hey, I am the good guy. But what if he didn't just drain the lake? What if he found something down there in the mud? Something that Nero was looking for. The radar data shows that the walls of this hidden chamber are made of a different type of stone than the rest of the foundation. The Colosseum is mostly travertine, limestone, and concrete. But this chamber, it seems to be made of basalt. That is a volcanic rock. It is incredibly hard and very difficult to cut. The Romans used it for paving roads, not for hidden boxes underground. So why go through the trouble of hauling tons of black volcanic rock to build a tiny room that no one will ever see? And then why bury it under millions of tons of stone and 50,000 screaming fans? This creates a massive puzzle. The timelines don't match up. If this chamber was part of Nero's palace, it should have been destroyed. If it was part of the Colosseum, it should be on the blueprints, but it is neither. It sits there like a ghost, disconnected from the rest of the building's logic. And get this, the researchers managed to drill a small bore hole through the foundation to send a tiny snake camera down there. They expected to see rubble, or maybe just empty space. Instead, the light from the camera hit the wall, and the feed showed something that made the whole room go silent. The walls were not bare. They were covered in carvings, but they weren't the usual Roman graffiti or timestamps. They were symbols, strange, swirling geometric patterns that looked nothing like Latin text. This is where the wow factor comes in. Rome was a society obsessed with recording everything. They wrote down how much grain they sold, who won every fight, and who built every wall. But there is zero record of this room. It is like they tried to erase it from existence. The symbols bear a striking resemblance to star charts, but not the ones we are used to seeing. They look almost vibrational. Some experts are whispering that they look like cymatics. That is, the study of visible sound. Imagine the be seen 2,000 years ago. The crowd is roaring above. The ground is shaking from the noise, and deep below in this silent black stone box, these symbols are sitting there in the dark. Were they protecting the arena, or was the arena built to keep them down? We have to look at the context. The Colosseum was a place of death. It was a blood sacrifice on an industrial scale. We are talking about thousands of animals and people dying in a single week. That is a lot of energy, a lot of fear, a lot of adrenaline. Some fringe historians are starting to ask a controversial question. Was the Colosseum a giant machine? Was the shape of the arena the specific acoustics and the constant flow of blood designed to feed whatever is represented in that chamber? It sounds wild, I know, but the Romans were deeply superstitious. They believed in spirits of the underworld. They believed that certain spots on the earth were gateways to Hades. If this chamber marks one of those spots, then the Colosseum isn't just a stadium. It is a capstone, a massive heavy lid placed over a pressure point on the earth. The camera moved further into the room, panning across the floor. It was clean, no dust. After 2,000 years, there should be dust. But the air's seal was so perfect that the environment inside had been frozen in time. Then the camera caught something in the corner. It wasn't a symbol, it was an object. It looked like a small pedestal made of the same black basalt, and sitting on top of it was a single metallic object that did not rust. Gold doesn't rust, but this didn't look like gold. It was dark, absorbing the light from the camera LED. The feed cut out shortly after that. Magnetic interference, they said, but the image was clear enough to start a firestorm in the archaeological community. We are looking at a civilization that conquered the known world. They had the best engineers, the best soldiers, and the best architects, but they were scared of something. They went to extreme lengths to bury this specific point in the city. Think about the effort. The Colosseum took nearly 10 years to build. It used over 100,000 cubic yards of travertine stone. It was the largest amphitheater ever built. Why put all that weight exactly here? There was plenty of open space in Rome. They chose the valley of the Colosseum for a reason, and that reason is hiding in the black box. The symbols on the wall are the key. We need to figure out what they mean. And to do that, we have to leave the Colosseum and look at the places where Rome tried to hide its other secrets. We have to look at the Roman Forum, because believe it or not, this isn't the first time these symbols have been seen. They were spotted once before on a piece of marble that was smashed to pieces and thrown into a fire pit. The Romans were masters of damnatio memorial. That is a fancy Latin term for condemnation of memory. When someone did something really bad, or when anew they scraped their names off the buildings, they tried to wipe them from history completely. It looks like they tried to do the same thing to the creators of this chamber, but stone is stubborn and deep underground. The truth has been waiting. The discovery of the chamber changes the narrative. It forces us to ask if the rituals performed in the arena were just for show, or if they served a functional purpose for the thing below. The connection between the blood sport above and the silent symbols below is too strong to ignore. Whatever is down there, it might not be as dead as we thought. And finding out what it connects to is going to take us on a journey through the heart of the ancient city, to a place where politics and religion collided in a messy, violent explosion. The signal interference formed a pattern that matched the layout of the emperor's cover-up. So we have a black box under the Colosseum. But to understand it, we have to walk a few hundred yards west to the Roman Forum. This was the downtown of ancient Rome. It was where the Senate met, where the temples were, and where all the deals were made. If the Colosseum was the entertainment center, the Forum was the brain. But the Forum is also a crime scene. It is a graveyard of erased history. When you walk through the ruins today, you see broken columns and arches. It looks peaceful, but 2,000 years ago, this place was cutthroat. Emperors were assassinated here. Laws were passed that enslaved nations, and secrets were buried. Remember those symbols in the hidden chamber? The ones that look like swirling geometry? Well, archaeologists were going through the archives of fragments found in the Forum. They have thousands of pieces of marble that don't fit anywhere. It is like a giant jigsaw puzzle with missing pieces. But one researcher noticed something odd on a fragment found near the Temple of Vesta. The Temple of Vesta was the Sacred Heart of Rome. It was where the Vestal Virgins kept the eternal flame burning. If that fire went out, Rome would fall. That was the belief. On a broken slab found deep in the foundation of the Vestal complex, there was a carving. It had been chiseled away, almost destroyed, but the faint outline remained. And guess what? It matched the symbols under the Colosseum. This is huge. It means the secret wasn't just under the arena. It was connected to the holiest site in the city. But here's the catch. The Temple of Vesta is ancient. It goes back to the very beginning of Rome, maybe even before. If those symbols were there, it means this cult or this knowledge wasn't a new thing. It was foundational. So why did they try to erase it? We have to look at Nero again. Nero is the villain of Roman history. He supposedly burned the city down to clear space for his golden house, the Disra. This palace was insane. It had dining rooms with rotating ceilings that dropped perfume on guests. It had walls covered in gold and gems, and it covered a huge chunk of the city connecting the Palatine Hill to the Esquiline Hill. The Colosseum sits right on top of where Nero's giant lake used to be. The Forum sits right next to where his palace entrance was. Most historians say Nero was just crazy. But what if he was building his palace on top of these specific spots for a reason? What if he was trying to access the power of these symbols? When Nero died, the Senate declared him an enemy of the state. They tried to erase everything he did. They buried his palace. They built the Colosseum on his lake. They smashed his statues. But maybe they weren't just erasing Nero. Maybe they were erasing the knowledge he had uncovered. The symbols link the two sites, and the fact that they are found in the foundation suggests they predate Nero. He didn't invent them. He found them. And maybe that is what drove him mad. There is a theory that the fire of Rome in 64 AD wasn't an accident. And it wasn't just arson. It was a cleansing, a way to burn down the old structures to get to what was underneath. The connection between the Forum and the Colosseum is usually seen as political, but this evidence makes it magical or technological. Let's look at the lapis niger. This is a real thing in the Forum. It is a black stone shrine that the Romans were terrified of. They said it marked the grave of Romulus, the founder of Rome, or maybe a cursed spot. The stone is black, just like the basalt. Basalt in the hidden chamber. See the pattern. Rome has these specific points of black stone that are linked to bad omens and ancient power. The Romans respected these spots, but they also feared them. When Vespasian took over, he was a practical military man. He didn't want any of this mystical nonsense. He wanted order. So he sealed the chamber under the Colosseum. He rebuilt the temples in the Forum. He put a lid on the chaos. The symbols represent a connection to something the Romans called the manes, the spirits of the dead. But not just grandma and grandpa, the primal chaotic spirits of the earth. If the Colosseum chamber was a focal point for these energies, and the Forum fragment was a control mechanism, then the whole city of Rome was designed like a circuit board, and someone pulled the plug. The complexity of the carving on the Forum fragment is mind-blowing. It shows a level of geometric understanding that historians usually say the Romans didn't have. It looks almost digital. It uses Fibonacci sequences and golden ratios that are incredibly precise. Who taught them that? We usually give the Greeks credit for math, but this style is different. It is older. It looks Etruscan, or maybe even older than that. The Etruscans were the people who lived in Italy before the Romans. They were mysterious. We still can't fully read their language. They were obsessed with the afterlife and divination. If these symbols are Itris, then the Romans built their empire on top of a graveyard of a civilization they destroyed. And maybe they were scared that the ghosts were coming back. The discovery in the Forum proves that the Colosseum chamber isn't an isolated anomaly. It is part of a network that runs under the feet of every tourist eating gelato and taking selfies. But the network doesn't stop at the Forum. It goes deeper, literally. Rome is famous for its hills, but it should be famous for its holes. The ground beneath the city is like Swiss cheese. It is full of quarries, tunnels, and aqueducts, and the most famous of all, the catacombs. We tend to think of the catacombs as Christian hiding spots, and they were. But they were dug into tunnels that were already there. If we follow the line from the Colosseum to the Forum and keep going, we hit the Aeon Way, the road of the dead, and beneath it, miles and miles of tunnels. Recent 3D scans of the catacombs have revealed blocked-off passages, tunnels that were walled up with Roman brick. Why wall up a tunnel in a graveyard, unless it leads somewhere you don't want people to go? The wild theory here starts to take shape. What if the Christians weren't just hiding from Roman soldiers? What if they were hiding in the places the Romans were too scared to enter? The early Christians used symbols too. The fish, the anchor. But maybe they adopted the older symbols of the underground to stay safe. The investigation leads us away from the sunlight of the Forum and into the dark, damp tunnels of the Aeon Way, because that is where the third piece of the puzzle was found. And this one wasn't smashed. It was painted. On the ceiling of a sealed tunnel, the paint revealed a map of what the monks hid. Okay, put on your hard hat. We are going underground. The catacombs of Rome are creepy enough on a normal day. You have miles of narrow tunnels lined with empty slots where bodies used to be. It is dark. It is quiet, and the air is thick with dust. But for the self-guided explorer, the catacombs are a treasure map. We usually are told that Christians dug these tunnels to bury their dead because land inside the city was too expensive and they were being persecuted. That is true, but it is not the whole truth. The earth around Rome is made of tuff. It is a soft volcanic rock that hardens when it touches air. It is perfect for digging. The Romans mined to build the city. So long before the first Christian was buried, there were already massive quarry tunnels down there. The Christians just moved in. But recently, a team of speleologists, those are cave explorers, found a section of the catacombs of San Callisto that didn't look right. The walls were smooth, too smooth, and the tunnel wasn't random. It was heading in a straight line directly towards the city center. When they followed it, they hit a wall, but not a rock wall, a brick wall. Roman brick stamped with the seal of the imperial engineers. Why would the emperor's personal engineers seal off a random tunnel miles outside the city? They managed to slip a fiber optic camera through a crack in the mortar. What they saw was shocking. The tunnel continued on the other side, but the walls changed. They were lined with the same black basalt found under the Colosseum. And there were the symbols again, the swirling geometry. This connects the dots. We have the Colosseum, the Forum, and now the catacombs. It is a triangle, a massive underground triangle of energetic points. The tunnel in the catacombs was seemingly a service road, a way to get between these points without being seen from the surface. This suggests a secret society, a group within the Roman elite, or perhaps opposed to it, that used these tunnels for rituals. There is a historical rumor about the cult of Mythos. Mythos was a god popular with Roman soldiers. He was born from a rock in a cave. His temples, called mithrams, are always found underground. They are dark, windowless, and full of astrological symbols. There is a myth right under the church of San Clemente, not far from the Colosseum. You can actually visit it. It is spooky, but the symbols in our black chamber are far more complex than standard mythic art. What if mythism was a simplified version of the real truth? The tunnel found in the catacombs suggests that there was a level of infrastructure beneath Rome that we completely missed. We marvel at the aqueduct carrying water above ground, but what were they carrying below? Some theorists believe these basalt-lined tunnels were for moving sound. Basalt is highly resonant. If you chant or sing in a basalt chamber, the sound amplifies. It creates standing waves. If you have a network of basalt tunnels connecting key points in the city, you could theoretically transmit sound or vibration across the entire empire capital instantly, like a stone telephone or a weapon. Imagine the Colosseum filled with 50,000 people chanting. The rhythmic stomping of feet that creates a massive low-frequency vibration. If that energy was channeled into the basalt chamber and then shot through these tunnels, what would it do? Would it shake the enemy's walls? Would it induce fear? Or was it a power source? It sounds like science fiction, but the Romans were masters of acoustics. The theater at Epidaurus allows you to hear a pin drop from the back row. They understood sound in a way we are just relearning. The block tunnel in the catacombs implies that at some point they decided to turn the machine off. They bricked it up. They stopped the flow. Maybe it got out of hand. Maybe the vibrations caused earthquakes. Rome has a history of earthquakes. The Colosseum was damaged by them multiple times. Was the Colosseum actually an earthquake machine that backfired? And that is putting it lightly. If they were experimenting with geoengineering, using sound and mass, they were playing with fire. The Christians moving into the tunnels might have been squatting in the ruins of this tech. They painted over the weird symbols with their own. They turned the acoustic chambers into tombs. But the energy remains. People report feeling dizzy, nauseous, or hearing humming sounds in certain parts of the catacombs. We usually dismiss this as claustrophobia, but maybe it is residual resonance. The investigation of the catacombs forces us to look at Roman engineering with new eyes. We think of them as brute force builders, stone and slave labor. But maybe they were more subtle. Maybe they understood the Earth's natural frequencies. And the ultimate proof of their mastery of stone and secrets isn't underground. It is hiding in plain sight. In the most perfect building ever constructed, the Pantheon. The concrete in the wall wasn't just stone. It was volcanic secrets. We have gone from the Colosseum to the Forum and down into the catacombs. But to understand how they hid these secrets, we have to look at the tech itself. And the masterpiece of Roman tech is the Pantheon. It is the building with the giant dome and the hole in the top, the oculus. It is nearly 2,000 years old, and it is still the largest unreinforced concrete dome in the world. Modern engineers still scratch their heads looking at it. How does it stand up? The secret is in the concrete. Roman concrete is legendary. It lasts forever, even underwater. In fact, it gets stronger over time. We just figured out why recently. It is the lime clasts, little chunks of white mineral that allow the concrete to heal itself. When it cracks, rain reacts with the lime and seals the crack. It is self-healing rock. Now, apply this to our hidden chamber under the Colosseum. The reason the radar had such a hard time finding it, and the reason it has stayed sealed for 2 millennia, is likely this advanced material science. But the chamber under the Colosseum uses a mix we haven't seen before. Samples from the drill site show traces of rare earth elements mixed into the mortar, holding the basalt blocks together. This implies that the chamber was shielded not just from water, but from something else: radiation magnetism. The Pantheon is built as a perfect sphere inside a cylinder. It is a geometric marvel. The oculus lets in light, but it also acts as a massive sundial. Some researchers think the Pantheon was a calm anchor. If the Colosseum was the chaos engine generating energy through blood and noise, the Pantheon was the stabilizer. The symbols found in our hidden chamber share geometry with the Pantheon's floor pattern. The circles and squares. It is all connected. But here is the catch. The Pantheon we see today was built by Emperor Hadrian, but he built it on top of an older structure built by Agria. Rome is layers upon layers. Hadrian was obsessed with Greek culture and mysteries. He traveled everywhere. He likely knew about the old tech hidden under the city. Did he build the Pantheon to cap another one of these energy points? The wow factor here is the precision. The Romans didn't have computers, they didn't have lasers, yet they built with tolerance levels that are mind-boggling. If the basalt chamber under the Colosseum is related to the engineering of the Pantheon, it suggests a lost science, a science that didn't survive the fall of Rome. When the empire collapsed, we entered the Dark Ages. We forgot how to make concrete. We forgot how to build domes. We forgot the symbols. Why usually? Knowledge is lost slowly. But this feels like a hard delete, like someone burned the instruction manual on purpose. The symbols in the chamber might be that instruction manual. The analysis of the base in the chamber revealed something else disturbing. The isotope signature of the rock doesn't match the local Italian volcanoes. It doesn't match Vesuvius or Etna. It matches stones found in Egypt, specifically the Aswan quarry, the same place the obelisks came from. This means they shipped him tons of this specific heavy rock across the Mediterranean, dragged it inland, and buried it under the arena. Why was Italian rock not good enough? Or does the rock itself matter? Granite and basalt are full of quartz crystal. They are piezoelectric. That means if you squeeze them, they generate electricity. We are back to the machine theory. A massive piston electric generator buried under the floor, squeezed by the weight of the arena and the stomping of the crowd. It is a wild thought, but the pieces fit. The specific rock, the perfect geometry, the self-healing concrete seal, the suppression of the information. Rome wasn't just an empire of swords. It was an empire of stone technology that we are only just beginning to understand. And if they were generating energy or manipulating fields, who were they talking to? Or what were they trying to keep away? This leads us to the final and most terrifying possibility. The reason they erased the symbols wasn't because they were evil. It was because they were dangerous. The map pointed not to a city, but to a... So what do you think? Was the Colosseum built to hide ancient technology? Or was it a prison for something much darker? And if we open that chamber today, are we ready for what comes out? Rome tried to warn us by erasing the memory. Maybe we should have listened. Hit that like button if you want us to dig deeper into these mysteries, and subscribe so you don't miss the next revelation. Thanks for watching.